MVP podcast, loyal listeners, what is going on? Another episode of the MVP podcast with your fearless leader and host. And yes, I took that from Scott Howell. Trying to take a little bit of introduction words of what some of these other podcast hosts are doing and just kind of have some fun with it. But I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ron Shroyer with Aureus Analytics, InsurTech. I wouldn't want to call him a nerd, but the dude knows a lot about the InsurTech space. He's been in the InsurTech space for quite a while, was with RiskMatch prior to joining Aureus Analytics almost 2.5 years ago, maybe a little bit farther than that. And prior to that was with AMS and Vertifor. So Ron, man, appreciate you taking the time and joining the show today. This is especially a great episode since we're in InsurTech month of the Agency Intelligence podcast, and can't wait to change some lives here today. So how are things for you? How's the new year starting?
New Year's starting well. I know everybody, I think, had a tough time adjusting to a little bit of time off. Mitch and I, you were just talking about the volume of food and everything else that people partake in over the holidays. So I think the recovery aspect's decent there. But good start to the year. I mean, we're excited about where things are going. I mean, obviously for our company, but on top of that, I think there's a lot of really, really cool partners that are out there that's helping agencies operate very, very effectively, efficiently, and some great people to work with too. So I'm looking forward to what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. And like Ron said prior to us hitting the record button, he said this thing could go in 27 different directions, which it probably could. I think if you're a continuous and loyal listener to the show, you know that I'd never stay on track, and that's what makes the show, and I will never change it just because that's how I like it. Guess I'm going to be selfish with it. But Ron, I have to ask you before we get into any insurance talk, were you a last minute Christmas shopper like I was on Christmas Eve?
We actually did a fairly effective job, especially with the supply chain issues and everything. We got 2 kids that are 5 and 2. So Santa had to be very diligent with early and often. So I think we were pretty much wrapped up with the month prior. And then same thing, my wife and I usually don't do too much each other wise because we just buy whatever we need throughout the year. But I did get her one thing pretty early on. So I wasn't as bad as a lot of my friends at that point.
Or you weren't as bad as Mitch. I literally, I'm not even kidding you, Ron. I did every single bit of my Christmas shopping for my kids Christmas Eve. Knocked it out. It was the worst experience the worst experience in the world because I was just trying to get it done. So I wasn't paying attention to like the prices. I wasn't paying attention to, the deals that were going on. I literally was like, oh, this is cute. This would look good. She would like this. She would like this. And next thing you know, I go to the checkout line about shit my pants because I'm like, this is probably why I should never shop last minute ever again for Christmas.
Well, I think ultimately it's probably not a bad thing because I think kids anymore they don't play with toys for the length of time that I used to. I mean, I used to get a GI Joe or a Transformer or something like that, and I'd play with it for the year. A remote control car, I play for it for the entire year.
The one toy. You're just satisfied with one toy.
I know. And now you get this volume of toys, and it's like, hey, it's very shiny object stuff. They play with it for 6 minutes, and it sits there for the rest of the year, and it just accumulates. So you may not have done a bad thing by not putting much thought and just going kind of gangbusters, because the more thought you put into it, the more you're let down with the lack of attention they put into it.
You talk about shiny tools, and I think the first thing that popped up, and that's just how this show, how things work and how we conversate here. But as you said, shiny tools, first thing I think about is all this insure technology that's coming into play. Yeah. I treat it like the game of baseball, and the reason why I'm using the baseball analogy is because the game has taught me so much, and I try to take things and put them in perspective on a baseball term. And in this case, it's just like the kid wanting that new bat, the kid wanting that new glove, the kid wanting the new cleats. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, just because you have the newest and best bat doesn't mean you're going to hit 26 home runs. I mean, there's foundation that has to be built between those, vice versa in the insurance industry. Just because the technology and the shiny tools and items and equipment are out there for you to use, to purchase, does not mean that they're a great fit for you. And with what the product you guys have at Aureus with the Donna for agents, I kind of want to get into that real quick to give a little bit of background to the listeners here of what Aureus does, what Donna for agents is, and how it's, how you guys are using it at a high level for some of these agencies across the country. And then we can kind of talk about, what some of these agencies, why they need it, do they not need it, depending on the size, because that really does vary on, does tech fit with your agency or not. So give us a little backstory on Aureus and what you guys are about.
Yeah. And I think I actually just want to jump into that analogy first, and then I'll jump into ours, because I think you're spot on. I mean, there is, as everyone in this industry knows, there has been a tremendous amount of investment and new players coming in, especially from the technology space. And I think at its core, everybody has the best of intentions to come in and try to drive change within an organization, whether that's a carrier, wholesaler, MGA, a broker, whoever it might be, an agent. too. And I think there is a lot out there, but I think, as you take a look at content that's available and you talk about people that are really progressive as far as adopting those technologies, there's some resources out there now that lets agencies of all sizes make intelligent decisions, just like we all consume other products. So you mentioned, hey, I'm going to go look at a baseball bat, some cleats, a glove. I'm going to go and look at the user reviews, the reliability,
the new tailor-made driver.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the carbon wood or whatever it's called now. So yeah, everything's new. But also I do think you have to put in the work. So you can have the greatest things in the world, and you can't just plug things in and expect them to do it. So it needs to be something that is a part of a process, part of a procedure, and the work is being done to take the most advantage of any technology that you invest in or any product that you buy in general. Like, if, I go out and I buy some gym equipment for my house, it's not going to do anything without me putting forth the force and the effort to get the results. And it's the same thing with technology. So I think there's a lot of great things out there. There's a lot of good options to learn a lot more about what's a best fit for an agency. And even outside of us, I mean, I know we were just talking about, the glove box guys and a lot of things, a lot of the other ones that are going on. So I do think there's good change coming, but there's also good ways to be able to make a quick assessment of what's going to be a fit for you too.
Yeah, I think too. I think too. While we're on the topic, not only is the tech there, but how this tech is going to change. If you expect this one system to stay the same way it's going to be for 10 years, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you see how, like you just mentioned, the glove box. I'm sure you guys are the same way at Aureus. The adjustments and change that you guys are making to your systems and technology to make it more easy for your customers.
Yeah.
We go back to that value proposition of what can we do as salesmen or as customers to add value to their specific business. In this case, you guys are trying to add value, or you guys are adding value to agencies so they can add value back into the customers. Mm-hmm. So how important is it for agencies to stay in tune with that? Whether that's Donna's product, whoever it might be, that's probably a very, very key important play of, is this technology right for me as you see it grow?
Yeah.
Because glove box is changing daily.
Rapidly. Like. I know. Yeah. I mean, they're doing a nice job, and I take a look at what we're doing with the Donna platform, and I'll actually just start and give people context and background. So my company, Aureus Analytics, we developed a product called Donna about 20 months ago. So April 2020, right in the middle of COVID. And what Donna does, it's designed specifically for agencies to just get a better understanding of what they have from a business. So it's a business intelligence tool that is skewed heavily towards the understanding what's happening with that end insured, with your customer. That's the most important thing in your business. So we have ways to be able to show an agency where they should spend their time effectively. Who are the right clients they can go sell to? Who are the clients that are at risk they need to pay attention to? Because it's going to help. It's going to move the needle if they end up leaving from a revenue and retention standpoint pretty heavily. Because I think as you go back, you start to look at all these technologies. What does it do for us right away? What can it potentially do for us long term? And efficiencies are at the absolute core. Because I know if you think about products that do not evolve, that stay stagnant, ultimately you get kind of caught in this web, and it's a snowball effect of you doing the same thing over and over and over again, and then it gets stale and old and it doesn't work anymore. And it's the same thing as what we do as technology companies. We take input from all of our users. How can we make this better? You take a look at Glovebox, you take a look at the new enhancement we had with Donna a few months back. Make it as easy to use as possible and easy to do business with, so you can be as effective and efficient as possible to work with your clients and grow your agency.
Now, one thing I think about when I hear you talk about the retention, the customer experience, the life cycle of that customer, what's that like? What's their buying habits like? I think of Amazon.
Yeah.
And that is what it seems like you guys are kind of on the road and path towards kind of building. It seems like, is how can, we pass Jane Doe on the street. Mm-hmm. What does Jane Doe like to buy? How is Jane Doe buying that? Is she buying it online? Is she buying it in person? Does she communicate via phone, text, email? I mean, all of those 9 yards. How old is she? What activities does she do? That's the same thing you guys are doing, just on an insurance standpoint now, correct?
Yeah. I mean, especially for an end user. So we do that from the executive level and then down to someone who's responsible for managing and retaining and growing a client. So an account manager, an account exec, producer, depending on what the dynamic of the agency is. But that's a perfect example. If you think about any individuals, us as a consumer, we go into Amazon. The first time I buy something, it learns from every search, every transaction, everything I do. And then more and more, as I log into Amazon, it knows, hey, Ron, you got a high likelihood of wanting to buy this certain product or this certain, protection, with this product and so on and so forth. And that's what we're doing for agents. we're taking a look at a lot of different data sources, agency management system, external data to let you learn more about clients, CRM, testimonial reviews, surveys, NPS scores, a lot of different things. And then using that data to give you that output to say, okay, Mitch is my client. Right now I'm renting his primary home. I take a look at it. He owns at least 2 vehicles. He has 2 kids over the age of 16, and he's a business owner on top of that. And right now he's just a monoline homeowner insured with me. There's a lot of opportunity there. And if you go and you take a look at, as an agency, how can you grow as fast as absolutely possible? Net new business takes a long time. It's expensive. You go out and you buy leads, you're converting leads, you're quoting leads. It takes a lot of time. It is always going to be there, an important component, but we have the ability to show you how can you grow from what you already have in your door.
Sure.
That's the path of least resistance. And then on top of that, retention metrics. So you take a look at organic growth, say you want to grow 8 to 10% this year. Your retention is 88%. So effectively you got to go out and you got to grow 22 to 24% to be able to hit that 8% overall growth mark. We want to help shrink that gap and make it easier for you to grow on top line.
So when you guys are an analytics company, obviously. So
Yep.
With it being analytical, there's got to be a way of telling within the system or within the Donna platform, right? Is this customer happy, not happy? Yeah. Are we doing a good enough job? Like, do you guys have something like that? Is it, because I remember seeing something about the centimeter score.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, because I think that is a huge component of your guys' system.
It's first and foremost, and I'm glad obviously brought that up and you teed it up very well. So I talked about how do I segment, know where to spend time, and centimeter is our secret sauce. There's other companies out there that do business intelligence. There's ones that run recommendations to show you, hey, what could you potentially go sell? But we have a score that's called Centimeter. So it's sentiment meter. It's a play on words, and it's a 0 to 100 customer experience scoring scale that follows every single event, interaction, transaction that happens within an end customer's journey. So the second that Mitch buys a policy from me, it goes through renewals, it goes through surveys, claims, losses, service requests, endorsements. All those things have a weighted effect as far as how Mitch perceives me as an agency. And there's a lot that you can learn from data. We've processed over 65 million insurance policies to date between our US business and our India business with this centimeter algorithm. So we talk about knowing the right time the right clients to approach at the right time with the right product. That's how we do that. So centimeter, long term, we want it to be kind of the benchmark as far as how agencies are performing. 2 agency owners are out at a bar buying the loser who has a lower centimeter score across their clients has to buy drinks. That's where we want it to be. And I think there's a huge potential just from an agency of any size that's out there to be able to use that effectively. But if you start taking a look at how the industry is progressing with more transparent relationships between carriers, between agents, between networks, carriers, and agencies too as well, it provides carriers a better assessment too of what does good business look like, agencies a good assessment of what does good business look like. Do we want to replicate this? Do we want to go out and try to find prospects that look a lot like our best clients? But when you start talking about working with carriers to say, hey, we've got this book of business, it's going to retain, here's a centimeter score, here's the lifetime value of these customers, here's how long they typically stay with us, and here's what they're most likely to buy next. You want to talk about an opportunity to dangle a carrot and have carriers and networks and agencies salivate to be able to write more business and grow profitably, because I think that's the biggest thing, is be profitable with it. That's where we feel like we fit in extremely well right now.
And I think one of the big scares for a lot of agencies, and I'm not the only one that's probably said this, is just the track record of has this, this insurtech company's been around for 6 months. This insurance company's been around for 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. That's how even some of these smaller carriers are, like the Openly, the Propeller bonds, that stuff's very fresh and new. So to an agency mindset, principal owner, whoever it might be, wanting to take a look at a product, that's probably one of the first things they think about is what's the track record here? What's the track record with the people that have started this company? What is the executive team look like? Who does that consist of? But with you guys, the Donna platform, you said 20 months old. Over here in the US. But I think what your guys' track record brings that makes it such a great and I guess lovey-dovey look is what you guys did on the carrier side with a similar product.
Yes. Yeah, correct.
You guys, correct?
Yeah, I mean that is another good point too, and you know that's even when I was evaluating, you know, what was next for me after I decided I was going to leave Risk Match was how important that was. I mean, this company, even though this product of Donna is only 20 months old, Aureus is about 8-9 years old now. So we're kind of, even though we have a product that's kind of early to mid stage, we have a company that's a little bit more mature than most. But I don't think even if you are less mature, it's entirely a huge issue. I know this is a very, very difficult space to be in. But if you have the right product market fit, the right traction, the right early clients, the right understanding of how you could potentially make a big difference within a certain segment of the insurance market, I think you're going to be in a strong spot. But it gave me that element of knowing that my co-founders, Ashish, Tana, Anurag Shah, who's our CEO and co-founder in Hartford, and also Nitin Puri, who's our CTO, that they've been working together for 20 years in a few different organizations. They've been together from Aureus since the inception of it. So it does provide an extra layer of confidence when you're looking at and when you're working with people that have kind of been there, done that, and this might just be a newer venture, a newer opportunity to be able to invest in. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I was kind of, I was kind of yawning / didn't know if I was going to cough, whatever it might have been there. The words that we kind of, how us insurance agents talk, and especially you and I, and we talk about these analytics and these bigger words, but to maybe bring it and dummy it down a little bit for some of our young agents, how important is analytics and data and making sure I think when you're hired as a producer and you're being shown, you're on board, you're being shown the agency management system you're going to work with, CRM, stuff like that. I think a lot of agents get in and just get mind blown by how much stuff they might have to input or what's all there.
Yep.
But I don't think they understand the importance of why inputting that data and keeping track of that stuff is so important. Yeah, an easy fix is just call Ron and get Donna for agents inside the agency. Mm-hmm. But two, why is that so important for these young agents to understand data is the king for the remainder of their time as an insurance agent?
Yeah. And I will go back to equating it the same way that everybody individually consumes products. We want it to be anything we go out and buy as individuals, we want it to be as easy as possible. But if you think about the data, each one of those companies that we all buy things off of every single day, that they're accumulating for the most part. And I don't want to back myself in the corner because I know Facebook, the way they use data and some other places can get a little bit into the gray. And I put that lightly. But for the most part, aggregating data like that is to be able to provide a better product and service that's going to help service you a lot more efficiently and effectively. And I think it's the same concept when you look at why data integrity is important, why entering data is important. But on top of that, as younger people are starting to get into this industry, because this industry is incredibly exciting and it's a very well-kept secret because I think everyone hears insurance. And again, they yawn like you did 2 seconds ago on it. And they say, oh, that doesn't seem, but there's an insane amount of transition. There's an insane amount of investment coming in from private equity, from a lot of these different sources that's driving innovation. So I think when younger people, when they're coming in being a producer and account manager, they start to evaluate, what am I going to be working with on a daily basis? What are the technologies that are out there? How is this going to help me do my job very effectively? And how is this going to be as automated as possible to allow me to do my job effectively? So I think that,
don't mean to interrupt real quick, just because I've got to stop and bring everybody back in for a second. So what I'm getting out of that, if someone's looking either to go to another agency or if they haven't even started and you're listening to this podcast because you're trying to decide if the industry is for you or not, you think that's probably a key factor of make sure you look at that in the hiring process or in your hiring process.
Absolutely.
What do I have to work with here? Because I didn't, and I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't know shit about insurance.
Yep.
But now looking back, if I was to interview at 6-7 different other insurance agencies, that would probably be the first thing I ask is, what kind of systems, what's your technology look like?
Yes. And I think it's becoming vitally important in that evaluation process to attract talent. Because I go back to the couple of years when I was a producer before I started a Risk Match, was that you walked in and you had zero resources available to you as a salesperson. It was literally what we just talked about. Where do you start? Let's print out an Excel report. Let's get on MyEdge and look at employee benefit companies over 100 employees, and let's print out a list, and let's start shooting emails off and making cold calls and everything else too. I mean, that is not effective and efficient. And on top of that, it's not sexy. When you're jumping into some of these old agency management systems that are just kind of clunky. They're not talking to any of the other systems. So you have 25 screens open at once. I think that's a very important part of how you're evaluating where you should go to work as a new producer, as a new account manager, because you got to have the tools. You got to have the tools and resources in place. Outside of the technical knowledge, the mentorship that's absolutely vital to you coming on board when it comes to being a new person in the insurance industry, you got to have those tools in your belt to be able to do that job effectively after you learn that technical knowledge. That's so important. And I agree. It's getting, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, and furthermore, like as we were talking about before everyone got on, as far as like acquisitions, the M&A market, the technology stacks, the data integrity, as acquisitors are looking at buying agencies, at buying tech companies, the importance of data quality, the importance of the technology stack that you have in place, the efficiencies, all that stuff kind of goes back to your EBITDA and all these different things that can really help drive your valuation as a company. That's getting more and more important, even on top of, people looking at where should I go work because of the technologies that are there.
Now we talk about the agency size. I mean, that's the first thing I think is, an agency size. Is there really we're too small for something like this tech product or Donna, or we're big and we have every single tech stack there is possible. Because that's what I see here. I mean, I see with some of these big agencies that I'm competing with on bigger manufacturer accounts, they've got the tech stack. I can see, because I see all these ads, I see these people, I have conversations with these insurance technology companies, just because of the show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I know why I may have gotten beat on that.
Yeah.
I know why I may have gotten beat on that, because he might have this or that that I don't have, but that's part of it. Is that a good thing, bad thing? Is there even a answer for that?
I think a lot of it comes down to what an agency wants to do, because as you take a look at what's happened over the last 7 years in the industry, a lot of the technologies that prior used to be only available to the largest shops that had a ton of data, had a ton of capital, had a ton of people to be able to build them. Now, just like every other thing, going back to consumerism, everything else we buy, TVs, all the price gets driven down, the access to technology gets driven down. And it's now at that spot to where a sole proprietor agency, maybe with a VA or two on there, can have a tech stack that is not going to, put them in a deep hole when it comes to how much does it cost. But it's still going to help them scale and grow and then be competitive with some of those larger shops that have these set up there. Now, is our product a fit for everybody? I'll say on its face, yes. We have clients that are one person shops all the way up to 100 plus employees, but it comes down to do the work. Are you willing to do the work? Because our product is not going to, you're not going to plug it in. It's not going to do it for you. You have to have that bought in from the top down, have the processes, the procedures in place to utilize it. So again, on its face, yes, everybody is a fit, so to speak. But once you get down deeper, what's the culture look like in that agency? There's going to be a lot that won't, because they just don't want to change the way they've done things, even though because it takes a lot of work. And the beautiful thing about our industry, and I don't blame anybody for that. This industry is great because it's the original SaaS model. You build up a beautiful business, you can make a ton of money, and that money's recurring. Every single time, January 1st, if you're 92% retention, I mean, if you don't lift another finger for 10 years, you're still gonna be making money as an agent. And I think there's a level of complacency that has gotten, which is not a bad thing, but I think it's those ones that are looking forward to the next 10 to 20 years because they know there's other competitive pressures that are coming in that's going to start encroaching on them making the money that they did before and providing the services they did for their clients as effectively. So there's, it's an awesome industry because you can do a lot of things in it, but you got to want to do the work and know the end game when you start putting that work into.
Yep, you said the end game, and that's kind of dragged me right into my next question with that. You've got the technology, you've got it there, you got to put in the effort, you got to put in the work no matter how big you are, but the most important piece is how you're going to use it. How are you going to use those the numbers, the data, the analytics that come out from the system to win or to go get more business? Are you seeing any, I mean, I know everybody gets creative, but do you have any stories from a specific agent or agency that they've used the product in a pretty unique way, whether that's for marketing, whether that's for, I guess that's might be the way they want to use it via marketing. I mean, what are you seeing the use of the product be inside the agency side?
And I think that's a very intriguing question because as a product driven company, and especially the people that developed our product. So my entire backend technology team, everyone has their kind of hopes and dreams as far as how they want people to utilize the product. But we know that we still have to be as flexible as possible because every agency operates a little bit differently. So we have some agencies that in its most simplistic form, they're like, hey, I want to run an Excel report to know out of your system, to know exactly how many monoline clients that I have that are above a 80 in the centimeter score that are a fit to go sell an auto and an umbrella policy to. Something as simple as that is where do you start? And I know because of the amount of data that we pull in, there's a lot of different directions you can go. And it can be overwhelming because there is a lot of data in there, but going back to where do you start? What's the most simplest way to get this thing enacted? If we can get those couple use cases in place, I think it's great. Another one is the marketing aspect. Because of Centimeter being that real-time customer experience score, and then the recommendations that we make, if I can use that for my drip marketing campaigns, my early renewal communications, like 3 to 6 months out, to say, oh, hey, look, you're doing pretty well right now. It seems like you got a lot more assets than we knew. Let's talk about an umbrella policy just in case someone tries to come back and sue you on your property, and then you have something protecting you on that. Or you got a vacation home. We didn't realize that. Start to be able to do that again, right messaging, right product at the right time. Teaming up with those companies, being able to do that.
And it's easy to use. I've demoed the product. We don't have to get into all that, but it's very easy to get in, and it's the functionalities of it. I think it's pretty hard to mess up as far as trying to find what you need to find. And I think that's important because you get tech. I mean, I even just think of maybe a small regional carrier that we have insured. I hate going online to their online quoting platform because it's so damn hard to figure out how to maneuver through it, compared to this company where I can get it done in 5 minutes. Yeah. Same thing with your guys' tool. I mean, are you getting that feedback as well? I mean, that's probably a big important piece when building that product out.
And I think especially the last launch that we did, because if you take a look at making it easy to use, like our prior version of Donna, it's gone through a few different iterations right now. It's roughly one happens every handful of months or so. So Donna 3.0 is a lot more effective because we talk about being easy to use and understand where should you spend your time. Our prior version of that too, like the insights were in there, but you actually had to kind of go in and try to find them based off of the insights. The new version that we developed has a very similar look and feel that Netflix has. So when you get into Netflix, you can go in, and I found myself get lost trying to find something that I'm watching. Nothing's appealing to me, and you start scrolling. So we have the ability for you to go in and find what you want to work on. What accounts do you want to round out? What customers do you want to retain? What policies do you want to renew? But if you don't want to do that, we have it prepackaged recommendations based off all the data that's coming through. If I just want to log in and I need to see who are the 25 clients over the next 30 days that I need to work with, we do that for you. So
say that one more time for people in the back.
Yeah. So if you think about how Netflix is, if you don't want to go in and try to find something, there's based off everything you've done in the past, it makes recommendations. Hey, Ron, you watch this, so you should probably watch these 10 things. Same concept in Donna. So if you don't want to go in and jump and try to find anything, we provide the top 25 recommendations through the lens of cross-sell, upsell, round out, and renewing policies. Top 25 that are out there based off your entire client base or the clients that you're responsible for. And I think that really, really helped push us forward because the adoptability makes it a lot easier. The usage is much easier. But going a little bit further to when we talked about, I mentioned earlier, the 25 different screens that are open, like the flexibility of some of these companies now with the APIs, the two-way APIs, we're to the point now where if we can get hooked up to a CRM system, the agency management system, a phone system, to not even have anybody log into Donna, just expose all of that information in whatever environment they want to have it in. So if I want to look at my Centimeter drops in a CRM system and have that trigger events, tasks, and activities without them having to lift a finger, that's awesome. That's how we're going to get to that little connected ecosystem, and you can adopt all these technologies, and then you're going to be able to use them very effectively and efficiently. And we're very close to being able to do that. Now we just got to get the largest agency AMS system vendors. That was redundant. Agency management system vendors. Sorry.
It's so bad. I do that. Yeah. I catch myself doing that every daggone time. But I tell you what, that's one damn good of a marketing tactic.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. I mean, gosh, I don't say it without thinking about them.
And you look at it, and they're getting better. Yeah, I know Applied is still a little bit further behind because they had a lot of work to do, and they announced the Epic's transformation in the open architecture, and a lot of them are built off legacy technology. So it takes a long time to rewire that. It really does. I know the market wants it a lot faster, but it's an incredible task. And when I was at Vertifor, when we got acquired, when RiskMatch got acquired, I was there for 2.5 years. And right when we got acquired, it's when they were starting to run the AMS 360 and the Sajita, kind of the back end transformation to allow them to be able to have the Orange Partner Program like they do. So they're taking the right steps, and I do think their heart's in the right place. I am hopeful that eventually we will get to this kind of true open API system to where, like, hey, anybody and everybody, let's just connect, make sure, outside of making sure that you are a secure product and a platform once you get access to the data, let's give our clients, our agencies, let's let them use whatever technologies that they want, because ultimately it's going to help them bring more into our system and stay in our system versus thinking about leaving eventually because these other options for an agency management system are rolling out that's going to provide them an open way to work with other technology partners.
It's probably a pretty common question asked by agencies when on the sale process to them, right? Or when you're doing a demo, I guarantee that just probably one of the top questions that's being said is, hey, are you guys open API?
Exactly.
What can I do with this platform other than what the platform's there for?
Well, I think for the most part, which we're getting closer to that too. Like, we've worked with AMS 360 clients, but it's more through the VPN. That it's a little bit more cumbersome. But if you take a look at QQ, their APIs there, it's a little bit slower to get access to the data, but it's easy to work with. Now Certs, Hawksoft, hopefully EasyLinks gets in that point too, with the Applied acquisition. But Hawksoft, you can log into their marketplace and grab Donna, download our app, and have access to your data within a few days. That's easy. And that's how people want to be as easy as possible to do business with. So we've largely, I don't want to say shied away as it stands today from like Applied and Epic, and then also some 360 agencies. But it's just not easy to work with. And I think there's a level of frustration there that again, things are moving in a better direction, in a positive direction, but it's still slower than what most people want.
I've sat here and I've just been grinning and smiling and laughing, like as you're talking about the, without lifting a finger, not without even pressing a button. Like, I laugh in the sense of, like, I can't believe stuff like this is happening. I think it's shocking I think it's shocked everybody just how quickly the tech space has evolved. And we thank COVID for it, I think more so than anything. But with your guys' product, there's not anybody doing something similar. I mean, we see all these companies that this guy does this. Yeah, they have this plus this. Everybody's trying to create something.
Yeah.
But it's hard to create a system that's like the ones you guys are building, because it's so damn, like you said, intuitive, and you guys have built it. You have realistically built the platform for 8 years since the start of Aureus. Is there another company like you guys out there that's trying or attempting, or you guys kind of just killing the space right now?
So there's a couple parts of this question. So there is, because we're working with the same sets of data as some other tools that are out there, we're going to have some of the same insights. Sure. But I think for the large part, like if you take a look at Agency Zoom, you take a look at Rocket Referrals, you take a look at a lot of these other companies that have some intelligence platforms as far as their customers. We all know that our kind of best opportunity is to work together, because each one of us has a component that the other one doesn't, and ours is that centimeter score, that driver of everything. You look at business intelligence tools like, if you have enough data, Tableau, Power BI, recommendation engines. When you get into Salesforce's Einstein, there's that component, but we are in a very unique spot with that centimeter score being the driver of everything we do. And that's what we're most excited about. And I think what you mentioned too is very important, is that there's a ton of money in this industry right now. So there's somebody that can go throw, hey, I want to invest, $25-30 million into this company to go build out a competitor of what Donna and Aureus is doing right now. But the thing that they're going to be missing is that 8 years of learning, the volume of data, because that's going to take them forever to catch up at that point. And we are so close on the edge right now of getting a couple opportunities wrapped up that's going to just do an absolute steroid injection of data into our platform. That's going to put us in an incredible competitive spot across the board, regardless of what overlap or what other company's going to be in there. So people are pretty much going to be forced to work with us, which I love. And it's going to be better for agents. It's going to be better for carriers, better for networks, better for everybody. So it's pretty exciting where we're at right now.
Centimeter score. What's a good centimeter score? I mean, we talk about centimeter scores. I'm assuming that's a 0 to 100 scale.
Yep. Yeah. So we take a look at, I mean, really anything in between like 60 to 79 or so is considered neutral. Obviously, when you get into the upper 70s, it's starting to get in a better spot. 80 plus is phenomenal. We have some customers that are in there at 100 and so on. But when you take a look at, customers that are difficult to deal with, that need a lot of interaction, that only have one policy, we start to see those lower scores with people that cancel, don't renew in the appropriate amount of time, are monoline that only renew, once a year. They don't do any other interactions and so on and so forth. So it's a pure anything higher than 80 is fantastic, a good spot to engage. But there's a big difference between somebody that dropped from 90 down to 80 or somebody went from 80 to 90. And that's also indications that we give. Hey, this customer in the last 10 days have went from an 80 to a 90. Let's go pounce on them to go sell a $2 million umbrella policy to. Let's go sell them this RV policy because they're in a good spot with us.
What about bad? Like you talked about the reviews, all that being fixed in with this centimeter score a lot. I mean, we could go probably on for an hour here and talk about each individual piece that rates and gives you that centimeter score. But the big key one that I loved is how they, are they even a good customer fit for us?
Yeah.
And whether, John Smith's construction company's called 5 times the last 2 days for certificate of insurance. He called us because he had an uninsured subcontractor that he needs to get insurance for. Yeah, it's a new piece of business for us. It's going to help that subcontractor out,
yeah.
But that also affects that centimeter score with that contractor, because who did he have working on a job? An uninsured subcontractor. That's a risk. That's a risk profile that throws a red flag up for me, when looking at an insurance policy or whatnot. The firing of a client in this case could be very, very easy to do by diving into the notification of a centimeter score being under 80 or 70. If he's under 70, do we need to get rid of this guy? He's had 3 claims in the last 4 years. Why? Well, he probably doesn't have a return to work program or something, something stupid or something small that you could have fixed to make that easier. One, either a better customer experience, or 2, he's not a good fit for your agency, and it's okay to get rid of that person.
That is, I absolutely love that. I was on a panel months ago for the Elevate conference with Raghav from Tarmica, I think Ron Glosman when he was still at Chisel, and then Ido from Agent Tarot.
I'm upset I didn't get it. I'm upset I didn't get to be the guy running that part, but
I was by far the least intelligent person out of those 3 that were out of us 4 that were in there, but it was awesome being a part of. So, but nonetheless, we were talking Raghav. I call him Rags because I'm very close with him too. But I mean, we talked about this. Firing your clients is one of the best things you could possibly do as an agent. And even if you look at it from an individual producer standpoint, you see producers all the time that get to a breaking point to where they never grow past a certain number, and say that maybe it's $1 million book of business or whatever it is, because they hang on to that stuff that is, for lack of a better term, a pain in the ass.
Shit.
And it's tough to deal with. And if you could cut off that bottom 20% of your client base and allow you to focus and replicate your attention on your best clients and then the prospects that are coming in, because you're going to know what the bad stuff looks like. So when it's coming in the front door, you could say, nope, turn around, go down the street, so on and so forth. And then it helps you grow that much faster. And that's what Centimeter does. It lets you make those quick adjustments and assessments of, hey, we got these, 30 clients that are just driving our efficiencies down into a hole because we're working with them too much. We only make a couple $100 a year on them, and we're spending as much time as we do with somebody we're making $20,000 off of.
Now, does it give is there like an overall centimeter score for, say you have about 2,000 customers? Is it going to will it give you a centimeter score for the customer, the customer, or the, I guess, the bulk customers, the entire book. Customer centimeter score. It gives you that. Is that a big key indicator of how my retention is going to be? I mean, are you seeing that? Are people going to pay attention? Are people going to pay attention to that more than retention at some point?
That's why, I mean, there's a few different lenses of that too, because there's times you have clients that might not be in the best spot too, but they're not going to leave. There are instances like that. So that's why we do, policies in force, retention metrics year over year. We do modeling like that for our agencies, but we do centimeter score across the board. So if I'm an agency owner, I can go in and see my 2,000 clients right now. are here. Here's where they've been in the last 30 days. Here's how they're trending. And then we can segment down further. Customers within a certain premium of their revenue range and customers that are in a certain bucket with a centimeter score. Who are these? What are the recommendations? What can we do? Because that's very important. And even down to account owner level. If I'm a portfolio owner and I have 200 clients that are assigned to me as an account manager, I can see the same type of metrics just on my book of business. So that's how you know the performance. So that is absolutely available, and it's used a lot to make better decisions across the agency
without touching anything. I mean, that's that's kind of the end all be all goal with this, which is scary to me, especially with I guess what you would call a smaller agency. Mm-hmm. You say the people out buying everything, buying acquisition of this agency, buying this agency, buying that agency. I'm seeing it every day. And I referred to them earlier as those bigger carriers that I'm competing against. Is it something to be scared about with all this technology coming into play? Is it something to be scared about as an agency owner? I mean, yeah, you at the end of the day have to abide by all the, you're the owner and you can decide if you want to put your name on that paper and hand it over. Yep. That's the end all be all, where it happens. But when a financial dollar, we talked about this a little bit too, when there's a nice financial dollar in front of your face and you don't want to let that go, so you sell, is that something to be scared about in the independent market of, so many acquisitions being, taking place on the independent agent side? Yeah. Is it scary? Should you be scared? No. Yes. Will there always be the competition?
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely something to think about. Every single owner is thinking about these things. And I look at, like, you take a look at succession planning. You look at, hey, what do I want to do long-term if I'm an agency owner? But in the interim, you have to be able to arm yourself to make sure that you're going to put your agency in that position to have those options at a point in the future. And I think technology is a big driver of that. I think the people, the culture that you have within your organization is a huge component of that too. But it is something that you have to take a step forward one way or the other, or 10 years from now. And this isn't like Debbie Downer and stuff too. It's going to happen. Like, people are going to be taking your clients pretty quickly because they have these things in place that makes it easy to do business with. And there's a lot of other competitors that are out there. I mean, you look at direct, and I don't so much think, like, you take a look at like the evolution of like Lemonade. They started saying, "Oh, we're not working through the independent agent channel, we're going direct," and so on and so forth. But finally, in the last year or so, they started to realize that independent agents are vitally important to the insurance transaction process because of the guidance, the understanding of risk, the opportunities to be able to place with other markets. And on top of that, you're there at the time of a claim, which is more important than anything.
Locality.
Yeah. All the stuff that you did up to that point, when you were writing that policy, you were putting those protections in place. When that claim happens, all that stuff, it may seem like a pain when you're going through that process, but tell me about it when you have a claim, and make it that much easier when you had the certain language in that policy or the right coverage in place to take care of something. That's where the independent agent is just absolute king of that whole thing. I'm still
a true believer that I hope it's not like that by the time I retire, but I'm still a true believer of the hybrid, in office. We're here to do stuff in office, but I also think that I think it's a must. And this might be my statement of 2022. I think it's a must. You've got to have some type of automation or some type of way for people to purchase, buy, and service their accounts by themselves if they wanted to. Yeah. Because some people just don't want to deal with anybody.
I know.
They don't want to deal with anybody, and they get the mindset of just like us insurance salesmen get the whole Jake from State Farm vibe. Mm-hmm. That's what we get perspective as an insurance agent, just like the used car salesman.
Yeah.
No one likes the used car salesman. Uh-huh. So in that sake, you've got to have a place, and you've got to have a spot for those people who don't want to deal with people, who don't want to deal with you. Don't want to deal with you. Mm-hmm. But when they need to deal with you, you're one phone call away. I think that's extremely important still. Mm-hmm. And I hope it doesn't go away, because I love talking to people, and I think that's everybody in this industry. I think I'll be gone before everything's completely automated 100%. I hope, or I'm done, because I wouldn't like that as a customer. And I think there's more customers that don't want that than there are that do.
Yeah. And I think that, obviously COVID put people in a position to really appreciate that interaction that you had just with people in general. That's what I thrive in. You're the same way. If it wasn't for people and relationships, none of us would be where we're at right now.
Right.
And that's what drives us. Obviously my role at Aureus is to drive and grow the company in the direction that we're going in and stuff too, and grow our revenue. But without these relationships and the people that we work with on a daily basis, that's not going to happen. And I think really anybody who's a salesperson in this industry, whether it be on the tech side or the agency side or carrier side too, it's because we all love that human interaction. And even though we are here on Zoom and doing these things, nothing replaces that when you can actually talk to somebody directly about something that's vitally important to them.
I never thought about getting in the insurance industry going on 5 years. I never thought that I'd be sitting on a Zoom call. 3 years down the road. I never did. That's because that's the world we're living in. And I think that's a very important thing to understand is pay attention. If you're out there, you're a producer, you're an agency owner, CSR, whatever, pay attention to trends that are happening and, go on current events, what's going on, because I think it can really help you, one, benefit you on the marketing side, but two, when you are selling and you're getting this data from Donna or for whatever it is that you're using, how can I use this data, tie it into some current events or things that are happening right now to have a successful marketing campaign for this first quarter. And it starts with, I think you got to see what everybody else in the industry is doing. And I don't think a lot of agents understand how important it is to, what in the heck is John Doe down the street doing? What kind of things does he have? What's he doing? Because you've got to evolve and change with the industry. You can't let the industry change and then you change, because by the time you let it happen and then you finally decide to change, you've lost. Correct?
Yeah, they're 8 steps ahead without it.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Well, what is before we get into my favorite segment of the show, what can we expect from Aureus? I know you probably can't give out any, like, if there's anything big coming here, but what's the future of Aureus look like, and how are you guys scaling to that?
Well, I think that the exciting thing that we're looking forward to is being able to work with a lot more data. And I think also the relationships that agencies are starting to have with carriers and vice versa, carriers providing technologies back to their agents, because ultimately it's going to provide a better product and service to allow agencies to put their clients in a better position. So I think that level of transparency between carriers, technology companies, being the intermediary between that, and then the agencies is going to take a big step forward over the next year or so. And then the same thing with networks. I think networks are in a position now because they're in between the agency on behalf, going to trade with carriers for them too, and then providing a ton of other products and services and advisory to those underlying agents. The same thing with the technology piece. There's a lot of unique opportunities out there for companies like us to provide value from 3 different lenses, from a carrier standpoint, from an agency standpoint, and from a network standpoint too, which again comes back to how can you use our technology that we have to drive your objective, which everybody wants to grow and grow effectively. So there's some really cool things that are coming out. And on top of that, just the important APIs that we're working through right now, that's going to provide people more options to get access to the information that we have and the resources that we can provide.
You guys are doing stuff with like the PIAs, big eyes of some states, or has that grown much? How many states are you in, or what with those, but specifically PIA, big eye, stuff like that? Because I think if you're a listener, tuning into this, great opportunity to go start having some more conversations about the product, not only the product, but what else you can do with those organizations, because that's a bread and butter for you guys, correct?
Well, yeah, it is. It's a good opportunity for us. And if you look at the Catalyst program that the 7 of the larger big eyes got together to put in, and Steve Anderson and Kerry Wallace are running, I think that's a great platform that goes back to our original topic, which was how the agencies know what's right for them. And that's ultimately what that platform is going to do. It's going to give a ton of information about all the tech vendors that are out there, so they can make a quick and effective decision. But you will start seeing us more and more at like the big eye, the trade shows and everything else that are out there, because I think each one of the big eyes are starting to take, again, more of a stance to help guide the directions of the agencies that are participating, especially from a technology standpoint. So you will start seeing us, maybe North Carolina and a handful of the others too, potentially New York and so on and so forth, because it is important for them to know what's out there, so they can, again, provide a better advice and resources to the agencies that are in each one of those states.
Love it. How's the golf game?
I got like a handful
You're
of
a
rounds in
snow.
December. It was, we got like 20 inches of rain in Pittsburgh, but it was like 50 degrees throughout December. So I got a handful of rounds in December, which was actually really nice. Yeah, I'm weird because like I think in summertime with all the tournaments and everything else that goes on, that my game goes severely downhill, and I'm very good in the spring and very good in the winter when it doesn't matter. So,
He says it goes downhill, but he's
yeah.
probably still out there shooting 73,
No,
74s on a bad day.
I'm a mid 80s guy and stuff too, and I'm typically sticking that. Every once in a while, I'll pop into the 70s, but
Hey, it's all about the
So,
enjoyment. It's all about the enjoyment because you could be doing something completely else.
yeah, exactly.
Gonna get into my favorite segment. I got 5 rapid fire questions I go through. My last guest, actually probably 2 or 3 episodes ago, he caught me completely off guard with this first question, and I'm usually boom bang bongo with the questions. I asked him what his favorite color was. There's question 1, and he said camouflage or camo, and I lost it. Like, I didn't know what to say next. Like, he caught me in my tracks a little bit. It is probably one of the best answers I've had with that question. So we'll get right into it. 5 rapid fire questions. First one: what's your favorite color, Mr. Shroyer?
Black.
Love
Clean, classic, mean, love it. I mean, it's strong. I don't think it's ever going away. I'd say black.
So, I think I think great minds must think alike. Is if you're watching this show, or if you're not watching the show, go to YouTube and look at it, because we are literally wearing maybe a little darker shade of gray on my shirt, but we're pretty much wearing the same outfit, and I love it. Favorite flavor of ice cream?
Vanilla. It's so boring.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing. You're not the only one that said that. It is what it is. If you could spend 24 hours with anybody, dead or alive, who would that be?
My God,
tough question.
It is an incredibly tough question. It would probably be a entrepreneur from a business standpoint. I won't go personal, but from a business standpoint, I think you take a look at guys like guys like John Rockefeller and Vanderbilt and all those other guys that really started this country and were innovators in the way they thought about things. So from a business standpoint, I would say that absolutely.
Wow,
one of those.
That's a good one. I like the way the mind was going there.
Learn a lot with those people, man.
If you could travel or visit any place, where would you go?
I am very, very partial to love Italy. I've been there, and I think, I mean, it's just a different vibe over in Europe. The history, food, obviously, and just architecture and everything else too. So I think Italy is probably it.
I love it. Love it. Last question, one of my favorite questions, because it's it can change lives depending on who's out there listening. Everybody takes things and advice different ways, and that's why I love this question, because it's the little tips and little tricks that come from entrepreneurs and people like you that have succeeded and done a great job in our space. And I look up to you as a mentor. You're a phenomenal individual, and there's things that you've said, told me, that I take and still use day to day, which leads into the question of, if you had any advice or one piece of advice for a young agent or for someone out in the world, might just be getting started, what would that be?
I really think, and this goes back, and there's a lot of people that are way smarter than me that have talked about this. You need to surround yourself with individuals that are going to put you in a better position than where you are today. It's a very tough thing to do, especially when you're say into your early 20s, getting into your career, because you still have some of the people that you associated with all the way through high school into that time. And it's very difficult to kind of break away from those relationships. And it's just like we talked about before, is if you can fire the bottom 20% of what you do, the better you're going to be. But I think it is surrounding yourself with people that have a wealth of knowledge and experience that can really put you in a better spot. And I feel like, I've had a few people in my career that I look to that have helped me tremendously, even from my mid 20s on. And now, I still have a handful that I rely upon every day for that type of stuff, to give me perspective, to tell me when I'm wrong, when I'm not doing right. And I mean, I think you have to have somebody that's honest with that. So I think just evaluate your circle constantly. If they're not putting you in a better position, potential to put you in a better position than where you are today, it's not worth the time. It's a very hard thing to do, but I think once you can accept that, and then on top of that, just not care what anybody else says as far as what you're doing. If you're never wrong to do right is the other piece of that too. So, you're going in the right direction. I think that's all you got to be, is just comfortable in your own skin too.
I love it. It's kind of funny you bring it up, and I'm going to bring this up just because it's going to help me. And I'll look back on this episode at this time frame of an hour and 2 minutes now, and look back at this, because and for those who don't really know me, other than just that I'm an insurance agent and do this podcast, I actually about left the agency to go work for Ron not too long ago, and when we talk about a mentor, somebody that you need someone to sit there and say, get in your ass a little bit and tell you, yeah, great, do this and do that. My mentor, who just happens to run this insurance podcast network, Mr. Jason Cass,
Mhm.
when I told him I was going to stop being a producer, Ron, I'm not shitting you. I was terrified to talk to that man ever again. This was totally after the fact that I decided I wasn't going to.
Yeah.
But it was all in love and all in care. And
Mhm.
I mean that in the same token of how bouncing off what you just said.
Yeah.
You've got to have someone that's not afraid to tell you you're doing something. Are you sure this is what you want to do? Are you doing something that's going to, you're going to reflect on looking back that I didn't want to do this? You've got to have those people, because if you don't, and you don't know crap about this industry, or don't know crap about what you're doing at all in the job, you're going to fail. That's just the nature of the business. Hopefully it's with your principal agent, your principal owners of the agency.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to, you don't have to talk to 7,000 people all the way across the country.
Yeah.
So take that with a, big old bucket of water and let it put the cap on it, because that right there is a great piece of advice.
Yeah. And I look back and I think you can relate a lot to what we're talking about. And everyone talks about Ted Lasso now, which is fantastic. It's just a fantastic show. But I mean, you talk about leadership and mentorship. And this will be the last thing I'll say is, I think there was a quote in there that said, a good mentor hopes that you will move on to something better, but a great one knows you will. And I look at when I made my transition over to Aureus and stuff too, and kind of talking through a lot of people that I worked with at Risk Match and prior to that, and some of the other people that I really valued their opinions. They gave me a lot of perspective as far as the opportunity, and having people surrounding you like that is so important. So from a mentorship standpoint, again, cut through all the BS, tell you exactly the way it is, make yourself accountable. That's my biggest advice to somebody that's kind of in that early stage of their career, is find people like that they can surround themselves with. It's
okay to be mad at him. After he sent me that text message, I didn't respond. I did not. I didn't respond. I was so furious, we joke about it now because that's when people love and care about you, and especially someone that loves and cares about the industry, just like you do, Ron. So if anyone needs to get in contact with you, obviously, you're all over the place. Your guys' name isn't not known. What's the easiest way to get in contact with you? Maybe people want to demo the product. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, from a personal contact perspective too, I mean, my email is ron@aureusanalytics.com, and that's Aureus, AUREUS analytics.com. Our website is Donna for Agents. That's FOR, foragents.com. You can hop in. There's a lot of content that lets you learn a lot more about Centimeter, some of the things that we're doing with a product standpoint, customer testimonials, demos, and so on and so forth. Then you can even subscribe to watch a demo, and then reach out to us if you need anything. I'm on LinkedIn too. So, I mean, anybody needs anything, even outside of just advice, outside of Donna or whatever too, I'm here. So I'm kind of try to get out there as much as possible too. And we've got a pretty nice network that we all have together, Mitch. So
absolutely. Well, I appreciate the opportunity of even being able to have a conversation with you last year. Glad we could continue to grow a relationship here. I can't wait to see what the product does for you guys. Can't wait to see what it does for agents, because it's changing the industry. And I always talk about making a difference. And I think whether that's as a person or whether that's as a product or a service, try every single day to make a difference in somebody's life, and you guys are doing that. So I commend you. Keep up the hard work. We'll get you back on the show again, and maybe get on your og or something. And I'm sure I'll see you at a conference here before too long as well. So Ron Shroyer, Aureus Analytics, appreciate your time, my man. And if you need anything, you know where to find the guy. Ron Shroyer on LinkedIn. Just go do it. You'll see his ripped self in an Under Armour pullover or something again.
I actually am, and in my picture of LinkedIn, it is.
Are you?
Just a different shade of gray.
Oh my goodness. Well, Ron, appreciate it, man. We'll catch you guys next time, and always remember that you can make a difference. For Mitch Gibson, Ron Shroyer with Aureus Analytics. We'll catch you next time on the MVP podcast.
Thanks, Mitch.